to iPen Podcast, Interviews and Conversations. Here we bring entrepreneurs and their business to their audience and communities as well as ours. We welcome and connect with them to share who they are and what they do. Authors, entrepreneurs, we extend the invitation to promote your business here on our podcast and in iPen Magazine. Your article, your story, your promotions, how you can connect with others, a new audience, a quarterly magazine presented online for all to view and subscribe to. For articles, ads, and subscriptions, please contact ipendesigns@gmail.com. For your viewing, you can see past articles, past interviews on www.NanetteMBuchanan.com. Welcome to the show. Good evening, good evening, good evening. My name is Nanette Buchanan, and this is iPen Visions, podcasts, interviews, and conversations. And this is where we bring together everyone from all walks of life. We deal with entrepreneurs, we deal with those that have aspirations to be entrepreneurs, those that work in the community to help others. We deal with health and fitness, wellness, mental wellness, and we also deal with authors. And tonight we have an author coming on that we're going to talk to and talk about and see what he's about, see what he knows and what he does and why he does what he does, because that's what we do. We want to know what you do, why you do it, and we want to connect you to others. So sit back, relax, and let me bring my partner in crime on. I think she's here and ready. Hey, wait a minute.
Yes.
See, that's why you're my partner in crime. You hit the button twice, you erase people. How you doing? How you doing?
I'm doing good.
Good.
Got a little allergy thing going on, but
Good.
Good. How about yourself?
You're good. Hey. I'm good. We actually found out that the hours are longer when you're older.
Oh,
Just had a birthday, just had an anniversary.
Yeah.
Looked at the number of years, and I'm like, let's not count the years anymore. We ain't doing that anymore. Let's not do that anymore. But the hours get longer, so.
It's a blessing if the number's so high that you don't want to count anymore. So
yeah, we don't want to count anymore. I was wondering, like, okay, so what did we do the last time when we were? Who remembers that? Because it's been that long. So yeah, I'm celebrating birthday, anniversary, and
then another birthday coming up, and then my birthday coming up after. So we're in our season. You're in
your season because my husband's birthday is in September, so we do it all over again in September, and he's got more years, so
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
So can you really say you're old if he's got more?
He's got more years. So. Yeah, we're going to push that to the side.
Well, happy belated birthday and happy belated anniversary.
Thank you. Well, we have with us tonight a guest that I met at one of my book signing events in Greensboro. I believe I was in Greensboro at the library. And this gentleman was next to me, and he caught my attention, as did quite a few of the others that were there. I was going up and down and telling everybody about the podcast and everything. Yeah. And for some reason, he was doing something quite different with his books and interacting with the audience that was, coming by his table. Right. And I said to myself, now that's different. Because everybody has their own style of how, you get people to come over and talk to you and everything. He's a poet. He writes poetry.
Nice.
And that caught my interest because I write poetry, but I haven't published any of my volumes of poetry. And I've got about 3 or 4, but I never thought about just publishing a whole book of poetry and then saying here, because it's the simple fact that I always look at it as everybody don't like reading poetry.
Well,
but I picked up his book and I read a couple of his poems and I was like, yeah, he's a good poet. Yeah. But I have to let him tell you this strange thing that he did with people.
Oh, I can't wait. I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued.
Yeah, he did a strange, and I said, now how can I turn that into novels and let him do that? You know, but it's so much easier with poetry, but I'll let him explain it. Yeah. Tonight's guest is Brian King. We want to bring him to the stage. Welcome, Brian. How are you, sir?
Good. How you doing?
We're good. We're good. And I'm short of an introduction because we don't do introductions for our guests. We allow our guests to tell who they are. Oh, because we would do you an injustice if we just said, yeah, he's Brian King. I did give a little bit away by saying he's a poet. And then I did say it's something interactive at our first meeting, which I'm quite sure you do it often enough to know what that is. But how often do you get to describe yourself?
Not often.
Not often? Well, I'm sorry to say, Brian, this is going to be one of those times because we don't introduce our guests. We let them tell us. Who is Brian King?
That's right. I can wing it.
You can wing it? Okay. As long as you know him, then that's good. That's a good start.
All right. Well, I'm Brian King, and I am a storyteller, writer, poet, a U.S. Navy veteran. I write short stories as well as poems. I've written movie screenplays. I've been writing since I was little, since I was young. I would write poems in Valentine's at school. I would write stories. I would write stories that would get passed around school. Like trading cards.
Yeah.
Writing a long time.
Nice.
Okay. Nice. That's nice. So you don't have that like instantaneous all of a sudden, hey, I want to write. It's something that you grew up with.
Well, the way I got started.
Yes, let's hear it.
The way I got started when I was little, my parents would take us to the drive-in movie theater all the time and watch movies. Okay. And one of the times that they took us, we went and saw Star Wars: The Empire Strikes Back. And, at the end of that movie, Darth Vader, who was my favorite character, he asks Luke to join him. He reveals he's the father, and he asks Luke to join him. Well, in the movie, of course, Luke refuses and dives off the platform. Well, when I was a little kid, I said, that's crap. That's crap. I don't like that ending. Darth Vader's my favorite character. I want Luke to join him. I don't like that ending. I'm gonna write
change the ending.
Yeah, I'm gonna write my own ending.
So you're all about the dark side, huh?
All right. Well, you know what? That's a start, though. That's what motivates you to continue on, make your own ending. Hey, look at it and go, that's not even logical. Let's do it this way.
Yeah, but again, how old were you to do that and just to know that you didn't like it and you could do something about it? That's awesome.
Yeah, I was young. That's all I'm going to say.
Well, you had to be, maybe 3. That's why I'm in such awe of.
I'm not revealing on here how old I am. We're going to skip that.
Right.
Okay.
The thing about it is,
you don't have to
the thing about it is, even to have the courage, as you stated in your opening, to have the courage to pass the notes around the school, to have your writing go around the school is that's kind of, like for a guys, younger kids are like, guys usually don't get into the writing thing. In grammar school and everything, they're more or less, trying to get on the baseball team. They're trying to, do, the pushing and the shoving and the buddy stuff. They're not sitting with a pen and writing a story and passing the story on. So it has to be something that's instilled in you. It's, you know, it's a part of you. You know, it's who you are. It's who you are.
Exactly.
So
exactly.
we welcome you to the show. We love hearing.
There's a glitch. He's a little glitchy tonight. Anyway, well, so until she comes back, so Brian,
Okay.
oh,
Okay.
So we're having technical difficulties.
Yeah, we're having technical. I don't know what it is. We're supposed to have rain here, so I'm hoping that it's not the rain. But I wanted to also bring up the fact that you have your books that are out. So because we're going to go into how deep they are, but your books, Out of Darkness and The Butterfly Dance, is that the two books that you have, or are there more?
Those are the two that are out right now. Yes.
Those are the two that are out right now. And they're both poetry books. Okay.
Yes, they are.
Okay.
Yep.
So you've been described as delving into deep topics of overthinking, transformation, self-transformation, heartbreak, and of course your butterflies. But you've been described, you know, as a person that does a lot of the transformational, you know, information, love, friendship, you know, relationships, heartbreak. And everybody expects all of that in poetry anyway. You know, they're looking for the love poem, the heartbreak poem, the woe is me poem. You know, they look for that anyway. Is there any reason why you think you that led you into poetry?
Well, when I was putting together the first book, I wasn't even trying to write a poetry book. I was going through some of the things that the topics are about, you know, the depression and overthinking and stress and anxiety. And I just didn't feel like I had any release. So I was writing poems to help me get through some of those situations. And it just became it just came to the point where I was like, wow, I have a lot of poems I've written to help with this. I think I can probably put them into a book, and, you know, they've helped me. If I put it into a book, it can help others. They're going through some of the same.
Right. Absolutely.
Right.
Because, you know, the as the caption says, these are deep topics. So, you know, kind of the first thing that came to my mind, what's your definition of overthinking? Because people, you know, have that. And so, and then what do you do with it as you're in that space? So what's your definition of overthinking?
Overthinking to me is when you're playing multiple scenarios in your head about a certain situation that you're afraid of how it's going to turn out.
Sure. Yeah, so that's my definition too, and I'm guilty. I'm not a poet, so I've got to figure out some way to get out.
Right.
And so find that, you know, in your overthinking, it was better to just write it down and kind of write. Is it really your thoughts that you're writing down, or is it maybe the solution to what you might be overthinking? I don't know.
It really depends on the poem. Some of them are my thoughts, what I was thinking. And then some of them are you know, what I feel I need to do to get through it.
Sure. Yeah.
It just kind of depends on what I was feeling at the moment.
Yeah.
And sometimes I speak to a lot of people, you know, that are going through medical situations. And a lot of times in them going through their medical situations, they have so many things that are confronting them at one time that deep thought automatically triggers overthinking, because they're automatically going beyond what has been told them. They're into what, you know, Google said. They're into what, you know, they read somewhere else. They're into, you know, why me? They're into fears. They're into everything. So in that's where I guess you came to, like, the transformation, the self-transformation. But do we really, you know, in the process of overthinking, is there room for self-transformation?
Yeah, certainly. I think so. I mean, there's, you know, overthinking is just, you know, like I said, you're creating all these scenarios in your head, and most of the time, in my experience, none of those scenarios actually happen.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's like you're thinking of the worst case scenario.
Yeah. It's almost like having the boogeyman up under the bed and telling your parents the monster is still here. You know, you're still thinking that you're going to be attacked at some moment. And you're not sure what's going to attack you. So writing became therapeutic for you in your poems. Have you found that by releasing these thoughts, your self-transformation, did it come right away, or did it come after you finally said, I'm going to put the poems out there, or did it come as a resolve each time you wrote?
I would say that it was probably a baby step process, and that with each poem that I was writing, it was another step to get myself there.
Right. And the reason why I'm going through it this way and saying it this way is because I want people to understand you don't have to be a published poet to go through this. Because when you were first writing this, like you said, you didn't think about publishing a book.
No, I didn't. I had written poems since I was little, but I had never. I didn't really think about making a poetry book out of it. I was pursuing other writing, other short stories and screenplays and that sort of thing. So thinking about putting together a poetry book was not on my mind whatsoever.
Yeah, and this is really interesting for me because most people say journal, right? And I love that you have the gift of poetry to be able to put it in a medium that is outside of the angst of your overthinking, because poetry is normally beautiful and cathartic. So that's awesome. And most people say journal. I'm not a journaler, even though I need to be. But something came over me as you were saying that, to say that because I refuse to let it go, I'm still holding on with double fist. And if I would write it, then it would break the overthinking. It would release me. It would release it out of my brain where it needs to be released in order to manifest wherever it's supposed to be.
And you know what? I had an English teacher in high school, and she used to tell us, especially she hated athletes. Don't know why she hated athletes, but some would come into class and be upset that they lost the day before. And of course, the English class was like the last thing they wanted to be in, especially her class, because she was very stern. But she used to say, write it down and throw it out.
Yeah.
That's what she used to say. Right. If you get stuck, in your writing, write what you're thinking, look at it, read it. And if you don't like it, throw it out. Let the thought go. That was a way of letting the thought go. So a lot of times what people don't understand, like you said, when you're going through all of these transitions, because we all go through them, I want to emphasize that this is not just Brian's, little bubble and we're poking holes in his bubble. We all have overthinking. We all have self-transformation. We all have heartbreak. We all have love, friendship, relationships, heartbreak, the whole gambit. We all go through it. They're all emotional tools that sometimes knock at us. And a lot of times, if you do want to get rid of it, he's giving you a way of saying, hey, this is what I did, and this is what worked for me. This is how I did it. You don't have to be a published writer to write. You don't have to be a published writer to write a poem, to write your thoughts down, to jot down words and reflect on them. You don't have to be. So I'm glad that you're saying that, you went through the self-transformation of the words changing you. Now, did you find yourself having to use the same words over and over again? Or did you find yourself expanding and becoming more open to yourself?
I would say changing. And anyone who's read Out of the Darkness, especially the poems at the beginning of the book, they know I was very open with them and very honest with myself.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them poems, one poem I can think of in particular, I almost didn't add to the book because I felt that it was too raw. And I was exposing myself too much, and I didn't necessarily want to put it in there. But my daughter Carissa, she convinced me otherwise. She told me that I should definitely add it because she was feeling some of the same things that were in the poem.
Nice.
So because it became relatable to her, that it helped, and she said you should definitely put that one in there, Dad.
Sure.
Well, that's good. That's good.
Yeah.
And see, that's the thing that everyone has to understand, that sometimes we go and look for certain, like if your attachment to religion is what it is we go and look for that, religion passage. We look for that. Sometimes we go and look for a particular story that we could relate to, or movie we could relate to, get the ice cream bucket and sob with the ice cream because we're no longer with the boyfriend or the girlfriend, get that misery out, So there's different ways to relate. And a lot of times when people say that they don't read poetry, a lot of times it's because they don't understand that moment. That the poem, you can't look at it and say, well, I wonder what he was thinking. No, the poem is for you to think. The poem is for you to relate. It's for you to understand, hey, has this ever been you? Has this ever been someone so that you can help someone get through the relationships and the heartbreaks and the different things that they're going through. Now, Out of the Darkness was a contest finalist. What contest was it in?
Well, there was a poem that was a finalist in it. It's just the surfer poem that's in the book. That was a monthly finalist from poetry.com.
Oh, okay.
So tell us about the surfer. What's the context of that?
Well, the poem The Surfer is about a surfer that is trying to conquer a wave, and they go out into the ocean and they just keep trying and trying and fail and fail and fail, but they just never give up trying. Even at the end of the day, they never succeed, but they never give up trying.
Right.
Oh, okay. So that's that willpower to keep going out there and trying. Right.
And despite the outcome, just keep going at it, which is awesome. And as we're having this conversation, I'm sitting here thinking that poetry gets a bad rap. And that's only because most people don't venture into, even exploring poetry. Again, poetry, for the most part, the commercial poetry is, rhymes or the Hallmark card or whatever. And there's that kind of thing, as opposed to really knowing that poetry is truly an expression of all things. And you can find a poem that you can relate to, or maybe suits you, in whatever, not just, in the good, in the bad times or the down times, or, it's like it gets that rap of either it's just this flowery Hallmark kind of thing, or it's this deep, dark seated, thoughts or expressions. And both of those are true, but really the heart of poetry is really just an expression of your inner thoughts.
Right.
And I think most people don't look for poetry for that. And if they would, I think poetry would be way more mainstream, because again,
not only that, I know I was, I'm not going to say we, because Brian is not as old as me. But anyway, I'm going to say it this way. When we were taught poetry, we were taught sonnets and Shakespeare and prose and everything else. It wasn't until I got into college that I realized, and they weren't doing performing poetry then. They weren't doing slam poetry then. They weren't doing any of that then. But the thing about it, they were transitioning to people being more, aware of how to put their voice into poetry. as opposed to just doing the, you got to have the 5 lines, and you got to have the, every other line has to rhyme. And, there was standards that when I learned about poetry that I had to go through to learn about it. So I never wanted to write poetry. I never wanted to be a poet. I wanted to write my thoughts, just like Brian has expressed, writing your thoughts and going through what you went through. And it wasn't until I went into college that I realized that, it could be anything that you write. It could be just a verse.
Exactly.
It does not have to be, you don't have to have the 8 stanzas. You don't have to have every word rhyme. You don't have to have, you don't have to have all of that to have a poem, and I think I was well into adulthood when I realized, I don't know how dumb I was being, but I realized that a lot of music was nothing. The lyrics were poetry. The lyrics were actually poems. You take away the music and say the words, they may sing song every now and then, and some of them don't, but it is an actual poem. A lyricist is actually a poet, so I understood a little bit of that. But Brian, tell us, like when you got into it and you said, okay, I'm writing poetry, or I'm expressing myself. When you got into it, did you, in school, of course, you were just writing. You just like, you just like to write. Did you, and you didn't think about publishing. You said that already, that you didn't think about publishing. But when did you realize that you were heavily into it, over that transformation that you needed, but you stuck with it still?
Right.
What was it that kept you? I'm thinking that once somebody goes through, say, journaling, and or going to therapy, or going to their special place for prayer, once they get over what they've gone into, they may journal a little, they may go to prayer a little, but they're not doing it where they're publishing. They're not doing it where they're constant at it. For those that are looking at the replay and or watching now, when we opened the show, he was writing a poem. So this is something that he does.
You're exposing me now.
This is what you do. So, and I'm only saying that because I do that too. It's like, it's just second nature to write. It's just a thing that you do. But when did you know that it was just a thing that you do? And it wasn't so much, no longer the transformation, no longer the therapy, no longer the, you know what I mean? You overcame whatever you had to overcome. When did you realize that writing was just you?
Well, the first thing I'll say is I don't feel like I've overcome anything. I've through writing poetry and writing poems, I have a different outlook on life, and I have a different way of looking at life and looking at the world, and how I feel about myself, and how I feel about others, and things that I've been through and things that I'm going through. I just have a new perspective. So I would never say that I've actually, it's not about overcoming. It's like looking at situations with a different pair of eyes. I'd say that, if anything, I have new eyes.
Okay. Awesome. And if you're creating those new eyes for people that are reading,
right?
Maybe their concept, they may be coming from an entirely different angle, but they understand where you're coming from. Tell us what it is you do, which I thought was so amazing. When people approach your table, at events, tell us what you do, what you ask them to do.
You talking about writing their own poem?
Writing their own poem.
Yeah, writing their own poem.
Right there on the spot.
Right there on the spot.
Yeah, really? Oh wow!
Right there on the spot.
I just provided a little guidance. Just created a little template with some fill in the blanks where they could write their own poem.
Nice.
So, yeah.
Nice.
And actually in my book,
Mm-hmm.
there's a whole section in the back
Mm-hmm.
of people that use that template and wrote a poem.
Really?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's a
now
beautiful,
that
it's
is
a beautiful
interesting.
thing. It's a
Mhm.
beautiful thing to see. I watched at least 3 or 4 people that
Mhm.
walk, because like we sat next to each other during the event,
Mhm.
and I watched 3 or 4 people come up and at first be so hesitant
Right.
Right.
about wanting to write
Yeah.
it. And
Yeah.
then him slowly with that smooth talk, you hear how he talks, right? That smooth voice,
I love
he
it.
he slowly tells
Uh,
them, yes, you can.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, you can. You can say it because I'm going to help you.
Mhm.
Here's your help. And when he gives them the template and they
Mhm.
begin to fill in, and he tells them, take your time.
Yeah.
With the smooth,
Yeah.
he smoothly caresses them into
I
writing.
love it. I love
And
it.
oh my, some of them were fantastic. Some of
Uh-huh.
the writing turned out to be a fantastic thing.
Yeah.
And I believe one of the ladies even said to him, "You have just opened up a brand new door for me.
Right.
Sure.
You opened
Yeah.
up a whole new thing for me
Yes.
because she didn't think she could,
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
it's not so much that you're demanding them to do, like, it's not cross your T's, dot your I's,
Right.
it's not that. It's just relax
Yeah.
and do this. And oh, they really, really, really enjoyed it. They
I love
really
that.
enjoyed it. It
That's
was
awesome.
beautiful.
Right.
It
Yeah.
was beautiful.
The thing I would always tell them is that, yeah, relax and just fill in the blank with whatever comes to your mind.
Mhm.
And all that I ask you to do is that when you're writing the poem, is that you're true to yourself
Oh
and that
wow.
it
Yeah.
comes from inside.
Yeah.
Because there's no wrong answer. You
Right.
can't put anything in there that's wrong.
Yeah.
You just have to put something in there that's true.
True. Yes.
True to you.
Absolutely. I love that. Something you
Beautiful.
said. Something you said. Yeah. I'm in awe, and actually, I could see that happening because even on this podcast here, it's drawing me in to say, oh, maybe you haven't been, using that as an effective tool, for coping or whatever, or just getting, like I said, I've got these things locked inside of me, and then I just refuse to let them go. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and so that, but one thing you said as well about the one poem that your daughter encouraged you to put in the book.
Right.
So that's interesting to me because, as a parent, I think definitely most children don't connect to their parents emotionally from the parent standpoint. It's all about us, and you've been a great parent or not so great parent, and I have all these emotions around you, but actually, taking the time to connect with your parent on from their standpoint on emotional, because you get these ideas of, oh, you're my parent, you've
You
raised,
wouldn't understand. You don't
or
talk the
no,
same
or for me,
language.
not understanding that you're a human with emotions that have feelings, and a lot of times, unfortunately, we don't think of our parents in that way. So I'm just asking you, like, as your daughter, and you even giving her the poem, not wanting to give it to the world, but letting her in on that thing. I think it's an awesome thing. I just really think it's awesome that
The
that
connection.
yeah, and on this level, on this, first and foremost, before you're a parent, you're a human. You have your flaws, you have your great points and everything. But from the standpoint of a child, most of the time we look at our parent and it's like, oh, you're just my parent, right? You're this. And instead of delving into, or our parents being vulnerable enough to share things that are going on with them, that they would share with a friend, but not necessarily their child.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just kind of curious how that came about to where, you invited your daughter into the poems that you wrote. And I'm sure, she couldn't once you published it, it's out there for all the world to see. But it sounds like, yeah, but it sounds like you guys.
Everyone can see it.
Yeah, right. So you know, she'll get it and then she'll read it, and a lot of times children are like, I never knew this. I never knew this. So again, it just sounds like you have a wonderful relationship with your daughter. That.
Well, I knew some of the things that I was going through at the time, that she had some of the same things going on with her. And so I think because of that relatability between us, I think it made it comfortable for me to share some of the things I had written in that poem with her.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. That's
good.
That
is good.
Well, you got a couple of your buddies that are saying hi and great job and everything. You got one. The very first one was Paul Gidtree. He said, what's up, Brian? And he said, we go back from the Navy.
We sure do.
Yeah, and then you have Skip Compton, who says, great job, Brian. And we have Marsha Sneed, our friend. She's on. Marsha Sneed Williams is on. So they're all, saying, hey, you're doing a good job. You're doing a good job. So
it's good to have that village.
Yeah. Hey, every now and then somebody needs to pat the back, like we want somebody to know, hey, we're trying to do this and we're trying to do that. Is anybody out there? That kind of thing. We look at it that way. Let me ask you this, because I know, like I said, I've written poems and I have volumes of poetry and I write every day. So a lot of times I'll pull from my poems and sometimes I don't. Sometimes I make up a new one, That's just the way that I write. But who's poetry an escape for?
For the writer and the reader.
Okay, so for the writer and the reader, and we can understand it from the writer side.
Right.
How do I escape when I'm reading your poetry? What kind of escape can I expect? If I'm looking at it, and a lot of people, especially today, I don't want the audience to think that I'm not about it or I don't understand it, but a lot of people look for someone else to solve their issue. They want the therapist, the doctor, my mom, my dad, my sister, my brother, my friend, the television show that comes on every Tuesday night. They just want a solution to come to them. And you just said it. It's an escape for you, the writer, as well as an escape for the reader. And they already know what they're escaping from the minute that they read the words that you write. But how do we get them to understand that escape doesn't necessarily play out to volumes? Because I could look at your poem and read it one way and get one thing. And Felice could look at your poem and read it one way and get an entirely different interpretation of the poem. And then you, the writer, could have wrote it for an entirely different reason.
Yeah.
That's how poetry reads. It's not like a fiction novel where, hey, this is the murderer, this is the person they killed, this is it's not so pinpointed. So how do we as poets, and I say we because I'm one, how do we as poets express it to let people know that in each poem you may find you?
I think you just, for the reader, you find a piece in the poem. It might not even be a whole poem. It may just be a line, but you find a piece of yourself in the poem, or a piece of something that you love, or something that makes you feel a certain type of way, and you just grab onto that.
Right.
So
which takes me into it takes me into one of the lines that there were two, actually. There was one in your Out of the Darkness book, and then there was one in Broken Pieces. But I was so intense on the one in Broken Pieces that I forgot what the one in Out of the Darkness was. So when I came to the page to write it down to make the banner, I was like, oh my God, I forgot what it was. Because I said I don't remember poetry. I just remember how it affects me. I don't always remember the exact words. But the one out of Broken Pieces was, even the stars cannot shine without darkness.
Wow.
I thought that was so profound for anyone going through anything, because we always tend to look at the dark side before we look at the bright side.
Right.
Yeah.
Why? That was a part of his poem, and you notice I did it. Part of his poem, Broken Pieces, in the book. It's Broken Pieces. Okay. What unravel that poem for me?
Well, that poem is, well, it's, can I just go ahead and read it?
Yes,
Yes.
Yes, please do. Please do.
All right.
By all means. And if I could find the other one, you can read that one too.
All right. Broken Pieces. Maybe the pieces aren't broken. The shards are just out of place. They can be reassembled. The cracks remain and they may show. Don't try to hide them. Even the stars cannot shine without darkness, but your heart is brighter than the moon. Let it glow.
Oh, wow. Very
Beautiful.
good.
Beautiful.
Very good.
And I think the thing that was so profound for me when I read it, and I read it today, I think I read it like months ago when I first talked to you. And then I went back and found it again. That's how lasting it was for me.
Right.
And especially today, because in most of the world, kids have gone back to school, but in our area, where you and I are in North Carolina, today's the first day of school.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And when you send your child off to school, you want them to shine, but you have to let them know that there's going to be some days that you're not going to be able to shine.
Yeah.
You know?
Right.
So I just thought of that was so beautiful for the day, for you know, for people to understand that every day that you take on, it comes with the light and it comes with the darkness. You know, there's an opposite to everything. And I just thought that was beautiful. I just thought.
Okay, so you named your book Out of the Darkness. Why?
Right. Why?
Why for you? Yes. Why did you name it? What was going on that, you know, or what was the motivation for naming it that, and then putting in the collection of poems that you did?
Well, at the time I was putting it together, I was writing a lot of the poems I put in the back of the book, which are more positive and inspirational type poems. And so I had some of those. I had some that I felt were kind of gray, which had parts of it that are, you know, darker, talking about, you know, suicide or anxiety, depression. And then I had some really dark ones. And so to me, I saw the poems transforming over the course of me writing them. Okay. And so as I was writing them and the poems were transforming, my mindset was transforming. And it was like I was coming out of the darkness. And so that's where the title came from, because I felt that when I started it and I was first writing the poems to help me with where I was at, I was in a very dark place. And you know, by the time I had decided what I was going to name it and I was putting it together, I wasn't there anymore. And the poems had changed quite a bit.
Awesome. Awesome. Because again, you know, I feel most poems, poets write again from their experience, and it's their personal thing. And yes, others can relate to it, but you know, sometimes, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just saying, I feel that every poem that I write, it's like I'm taking a precious piece of myself, and I'm sharing it with whoever's reading it. I'm like, here I am.
Yes.
You know, read my poem. Let's see where you are.
Right,
Mm-hmm.
right, right.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
yes,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And the thing about it is we don't know. A lot of times, people will say, you're writing or whatever. And I'm quite sure you've had it a lot too. We don't know who we help.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right.
Because a lot of times they read and they don't come back and say, well, what you wrote changed what I was doing. They may very well come back and tell you it was a great book. They may very well say, oh, that's a nice poem, but they don't always tell you that you've pulled them out of the darkness.
Yeah.
You pulled them out of something you don't know. So
because in and around Greensboro, I don't know if this is like this where you're at, but in and around Greensboro, there's these little libraries set up.
Mm-hmm.
They can be at different businesses or in someone's yard or at the park. Well, I try and go out and put Out of the Darkness or And the Butterflies Dance in all of those little libraries in and around town.
Nice.
And I'll put my book in there, and then what I like to do is like a month later, 2 months later, whenever, I'll go back and see if my book is still sitting in the library, if it's gone.
Right.
Because in my mind, if it's not there, then that means someone went in there, they looked at it, they might have read a poem or two, thought that they could use it, and then they took it.
Yeah. And that's a good idea. That's a good idea. Yeah. All you authors, that's a good idea.
Yeah, that's an
awesome idea because
every time I'm going back to one of those little libraries.
Yeah.
I was gonna say every time that I went back to one of those little libraries, my book was always gone. I've never found it.
That's awesome.
And a lot of times we have to get past the idea of saying that we're just doing the writing for the income. A lot of times we're doing the writing to share the words, to share, like you said, to transform someone, to soothe someone, to take someone somewhere else periodically. We're doing it for a different reason. So it is a great idea, especially when libraries are telling you, oh, you got to have a hardcover if you want it inside the library. You got to have this if you want it. They've got different stipulations for different libraries now. But to have those, and they have them in our town too, to have the boxes where you can go and just put the book in the box, and people come and transfer and trade off and do that.
Yeah.
But that's a very, very, very good thing to do because you don't know who you're helping. You have no idea.
Yes.
Yeah, you have no idea, especially a book like your books and the just the idea to tell someone to just put pen to pad. That's always been my thing, to just, you never know what's going to come out. You never know. A lot of people do the same thing with instruments. They go out and get an instrument and all of a sudden, now you got this big guitarist who was self-taught because they just went and strummed a little bit on the guitar and didn't know, it just was something to make them feel good. So, yeah. So read us another poem. Give us another selection.
Yeah.
Give us one of your, what you would select.
Well, what about that one that's hot off the press?
Yeah, I'm going to read that.
Hot off the press, right?
I'm going to read that one. I'll probably read that right before we end.
Okay.
One thing I would like to do is like we talked about the poetry prompt I had at the book signing.
Mm-hmm.
I want to read a couple. Other people wrote.
Okay.
So this first one was written by my daughter Lily at the book signing.
Okay.
So and it says, I feel that my fear has become my strength, so I will fight until I give out. This will force courage. This will bring me peace. I will face tomorrow bravely like a wolf leading its pack.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
See, she wrote that using that prompt, and I think it's fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So do you mind telling us her age? So like, are your prompts for children that can get started on a poem, or, do you mostly deal with adults in the prompting of?
Well, this prompt, I feel anyone can write it. Anyone can write it because the prompt is just I feel that my blank has become blank, so I will blank until I blank. So I mean, anybody can fill that in. It is any age. Like I said earlier, as long as you're being true to yourself when you're filling in the blanks, then that's all that matters.
Yeah. Yeah, I love it. Okay.
Yeah.
And the thing about it is it also allows them to open up to something that they don't even know they have.
Right.
A lot of times, you know, I watched as, you know, you could see almost a transformation, you know, like it was first hesitation, you know, no, I don't know what I'm going to do, you know, the kind of fear, and he talked them through it. And then as they write, they start off real slow. And then you see them, you know, speed up a little bit. And then at the end, it seemed like they, you know, so it was very interesting to see the process, just to see the process.
You got another one?
Oh yeah, I can read another one. All right, this one was written by Megan. She works at the same. I work in IT during the day or whatever. And this is written by Megan. She works in the same company. I feel that my dad has become a memory, so I will reminisce until I reunite. This will force yearning. This will bring me heartache. I will face tomorrow again like a record on repeat.
Oh, wow. Wow.
That's deep.
Wow.
Yeah. And she didn't think she could write a poem either, but here we go. She did.
Right.
There you have it. That's awesome. Yeah.
Right. Like I said, I think a lot of people think that the poetry has so many rules. And believe me, I have a poetry course, and it does. There's thousands of rules because you have to know who, what, where, and then for children, there's so many words you have to put in that educate, and so many different things, and it's a bit overwhelming. But when you tell someone to just write from the heart and don't write from the mind, write from the heart, because the heart speaks for the mind anyway.
Yeah, sure.
So if you just write from the heart, write what you feel, you know, write what it is, and you'll get the best out of you. And then who cares if it rhymes? Who cares? You know, who cares if it's a sing song? You know, it doesn't have to be, you know. Right. I think that's something they did for us to remember stuff, you know, make it rhyme, make it sound good, you know.
Yeah, I don't pay attention in them rules.
Exactly. Because the thing is that a lot of times, you know, you abide by the rules when you need the rules. But when you don't need the rules and it's just freestyle writing, just write. You know, just write what you feel. I remember I wrote a poem. I don't even remember what the poem is because I don't. Do you memorize your poems?
Do I memorize them?
Yeah.
Nope. Nope.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I'm gonna read this whole book to you. I'm gonna read every poem to you from
memory. But there's some people that have phenomenal memories and they can, you know, like right off the top of their head, you know, rattle off a poem. I can't do it.
That ain't me.
No, I can't do it either. But I remember writing a poem and a young lady asking me, because she take the poem, as I said earlier, poetry, you know, lyrics. She said, I want to take the poem and write a song, you know, write some music to it. And I'm thinking, what lyrics is she going to write? Well, it became a country western song. I just could not believe it. And she, you know, she published it and did everything with it. But the thing was, it was so funny to me that in her mind, this was a country western song. And in my mind, it was just a think about it. It was one of those, this is an aha moment. Think about it. Something real simple, you know.
I can't write poems. Well, I can't remember my poems, like all of them off the top of my head. But what I can do is I can write a poem in like 2 seconds.
Exactly. That's the same thing I am. That's the same thing I am.
I'm gonna read this poem. I want to read this poem.
Okay.
And then I'll tell you how long it took me to write this poem. Okay.
Okay.
It's in And a Butterfly's Dance, and it's called Diamond Eyes. I don't need cash and I don't need gold. I don't care if it's hot. I don't care if it's cold. I don't need the wind to float on the breeze. I don't need the rain to be caught by the trees. It doesn't matter to me if there is light. The only thing that I want will guide me at night. I don't want a sunset or a sunrise. I only want the diamonds inside of her eyes.
Oh, wow.
That's pretty. That's pretty.
That's great. Yeah.
So how long do you think it took me to write that poem?
Maybe about
4 hours.
No, 10 minutes.
That poem at the max may have taken me 3 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah, because once you get it, you're gone. It doesn't take long. Doesn't take long.
No.
I said 10 just in case he paused a little bit.
Well, and then I think the authenticity of it, you already knew whoever that was inspired by, or your thoughts of who you're looking for. You already know that's already inside of you. So
as long if you have that little inspiration, you can
you can just write it right off the top of your head, and it doesn't go. Now, why the title and the butterflies dance?
Those butterflies dance.
Yeah, they do. They do. But come on, you know what I'm trying to ask you? How did you get into butterflies?
My dad.
Yeah.
My dad taught me everything there is to know about butterflies. When I was a little boy until now. I still talk to my dad about butterflies to this day. Like he taught me everything. Taught me about how they fly, where to look for them, how to raise them from caterpillars, the names of different butterflies. Everything you could possibly think of about butterflies, my dad taught me.
Wow.
Now, has he ever told you why his interest in butterflies was like that?
He just same thing. Like he started loving them when he was little, and started learning all about them, and he just kind of passed it on to me.
Nice.
I used to think they were colored moths. I did. I mean, because a moth looks the same, but they're you know. So when I was little, I used to say they were colored moths until someone. No, they're not. They're from a different species. I'm like, nah, they look like colored moths.
Well, the thing about butterflies too, like I've loved butterflies since I was little, and that's one of the reasons why I love butterflies so much, because I grew up all around them and learning about them from my dad and that, but also just to think of what it actually means. Because they start off as a caterpillar and then they change into a butterfly. It's relatable because just because you start one way or you feel one way or that, it doesn't mean you have to stay that way. You can go through a process and you can
transitioning.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And that's so profound and is a great analogy to life, right? Because I know just a little bit about butterflies, right? So I'm no expert, but have been taught that, even the process of them being in the cocoon, and that they need to stay in the cocoon and flap their wings in there to get the strength to fly outside of it. And if you were to help them get out of their cocoon, they will die because they didn't go
through the process,
the full transformation process. And interesting enough, I've seen a reel today of this young lady who decided to grow butterflies. I think because she started with a plant and she knew that this plant attracts butterflies. So she went and got butterfly larvae or whatever. And then she did the whole process, and she showed each step of the process of, when they get in the cocoon, and then as they're transforming, they, secrete this red something, and just this whole thing. And then that she grew them and she took them to the park because her plant wasn't mature enough, because they needed to go and be in a certain kind of flower and all of this stuff. And it was just this whole thing. And here we are today. Now
talking about butterflies.
Yeah.
I thought it was interesting when I was writing Heaven Sent Kisses. My granddaughter wanted to have the rainbow and the butterflies for the cover. And I said to her, well, let's look up the meaning of butterflies, and it said Heaven Sent Kisses. So I was like, that's it. That's all we need. Because the story just fit. The story was already thought of, and she thought of the rainbow and the butterflies. So I just said, well, let's look up the meaning of butterflies and see if it's anywhere near what we're talking about. And it says Heaven Sent Kisses. I was like, oh wow, this is deep. This is indeed deeper than what I thought.
Right.
Right.
So sometimes we find in our writing where our transformation is needed. So we find that sometimes. Have you ever? And I know you said your first books, you wrote to transform yourself. You were going through a period of time where you needed transformation.
Right.
Have you ever had someone ask you to write a poem for them?
No, not someone asked me. Be just like,
hey, someone just say, hey, I don't know how to
poem.
put this in words. Right. I don't know how to say this. Have you ever had someone do that?
Nope, I actually haven't. Nope.
That's
I would.
That's an experience too that I've come across. I used to do it, and this is something you probably would be very good at. I used to do it, say for example, a picture of you and your daughter. You tell me about your daughter. You tell me about your relationship. I write a poem about your relationship with your daughter. Put it on top of your picture. Here's your gift.
Yeah.
See, I've written poems like I knew someone who lost a pet, and I was trying to think of what I could do to try and make them feel better. But I wrote a poem like that. But to have someone actually ask me, can you write me a poem?
I used to have people ask me like around anniversary time. They would bring me a picture of their their spouse or whatever, and say, this is how we met, or this is what we went through, or this is what we're going through. Could you write a poem about it? And I would write the poem and overlay the picture, put it in a frame, and give it to them. Yep. Mm-hmm. Did it a couple of times.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Awesome.
They actually enjoyed the outcome because they knew what it was, but the person they were giving it to had no idea. What it was or what it would be. So, that kind of thing. Poetry covers a lot of stuff.
It sure does.
So Brian, how do people get in touch with you to get your books, to get you to create, or to read your work and everything? I know you're on Amazon.
Yep.
And I know you're on social media pretty much, but do you have a website or email address that they could contact you with?
I don't have a website yet, but I'm going to be creating one.
Okay. So you can get in touch with him on Twitter. You can get in touch with him on Instagram, all of those sites with just his name, Brian King. And we want to thank you, sir. This has been interesting.
I want to read the.
Yes, please read the one that he was doing while we were opening. He was in the midst of writing a fantastic poem.
Yeah, and I'm not going to say who this is for, but I'm pretty sure they'll know.
Okay,
I read it.
All right.
Okay. When the rain ends and the sun peeks out behind a curtain of clouds, our hands are together. The storm has disappeared. The fog has lifted, and we can both breathe. All I see is your eyes. All you see are mine. Like a dream forgotten in the morning, let your fears crawl back into the shadows. What we have is an endless rainbow of what can be.
Nice.
Wow, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
And your daughter says, "Great interview, Dad."
I love it.
So we want to thank you so much for being here. We want to thank your guests for coming in and dropping in kind words and saying that they're looks like they like you.
Yeah, it does. It looks that way.
Yeah, it looks that way. I don't know if they're just being polite or anything, but it looks like, they kind of like you,
I swear I didn't pay a single one of them.
But we want to thank everybody for joining us, and Brian, we're definitely going to look forward to having you back when you put out that next book or that next lyric for music or anything else that you have coming. We welcome you to join us at any time.
I'm always writing, so
yeah, it's been wonderful. And we just want to say thank you. But Felice has a question for you before we close.
It is an uh-oh. So, of all the wonderful things, and first of all, I'm always wanting to say thank you so much for sharing your gift to the world. There's someone out there that needs it and is looking for it, whether you know it or not. And I feel that you do, and you've already connected to a lot of people. But with all you do, and I know that this is going to be a question that we might assume we know, but I don't think we do. So what, Brian, do you do to keep or fill your cup for yourself as you give so much to the world, even though you're doing it through your own personal experiences? What do you do to fill your cup?
To fill my own cup?
To fill your own cup.
Well, the writing, the poetry first and foremost is for me.
Mm-hmm.
So it's, the way I see it is that God gave me this gift. Yeah. He blessed me with being able to write and use my writing to touch other people. Yeah. And, I show him that I appreciate and I love that he gave me that gift by writing and by sharing it with other people. Mm-hmm. So knowing that, like I said earlier, like going to the little libraries and seeing that someone's taken my book. Yeah. That's how I fill my cup, by knowing that what I've written is helping someone else.
Yes. Mm-hmm. That is awesome. Because, again, we could assume that, but, again, from your perspective, how is your cup being filled? And the reason I ask this question of everyone is because we are responsible for making sure our cup stays full. Right. Or responsible for knowing that our cup is getting empty, and then pay attention to that. Mm-hmm. As you just said, that it is a God-given gift, but he requires that we give from our overflow and not from our emptiness.
Right. Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Okay. Well, we want to thank you, Brian. We appreciate you. Love your work. Love what you do. I couldn't say it better as being also an author and a poet. I'm just overwhelmed with the different ways we do what we do, and yet we connect with others on different levels and bring them to an awareness of their own. So I think that that's important, no matter what we do or how we do. Mm-hmm. So I want to thank you, Felice, and thank our audience and all our guests. I've already sent out a thank you. I told them you would after the show. Mm-hmm. So they're probably going to call you and find out how much you're paying because, I just let them know. Night to everyone, and we appreciate you and we'll see you next week. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, everyone. Mwah! It was great. Thank you, Brian. I enjoyed the time. I definitely did.
All right.